Hey, before we begin, I just want to wish Freddy Fazbear himself a happy womb escape day. Freddy Fazbear is 7 years old. The original game was released 2014 something August, and today is that day, but it's 2021. Also, this video is not finished. It will never be finished, so don't ask me to finish it. This took 3 months to make, and it's not even finished, which is why it just ends abruptly and stuff, so,
Freddy Fazbear.
Hello everybody, I'm Cass from TV, and today I'm going to be ranking every single Five Nights at Freddy's game that's ever come out. Yes, including the stupid thing, Anime Freddy Space Adventure 2. However, I am a weird human being, so therefore, if I'm alone by myself for more than 3 minutes, I start screaming like a stinking ape. So to fix this problem, I invited a friend named B. Bonnie, and we're going to rank all the FNaF games. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into this. So the first game that was released is Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Probably one of the, in majority of people's opinions, scariest games in the franchise. However, I'll have to disagree there. This game, honestly, is the most basic formula this franchise has had, and therefore suffers from more recent fans. I personally got into the game when Sister Location's trailer dropped, so therefore this is just one of those undercooked, very plain games in the franchise. Not to mention, once you get to Night 4, it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's just the same thing, but more difficult, and it gets very repetitive. I haven't even beaten the game yet at all, because I just genuinely don't see the point. It's just the same game. I'm only missing out on an Easter egg or two. So, therefore, just because of this being the landmark it started, I'm gonna put it in C tier. It would be D, but because of the landmark it had, it'll be C.
So for me, FNaF 1, even though it is pretty basic, probably like how you said, one of the most basic games in the series, it does have that like nostalgia to people, and it's pretty good for its time. I wouldn't give it an S, but since it's pretty basic, I'm gonna have to give it an A in my opinion. Mainly because this is the original, and that's when I got into FNaF. So this game is very nostalgic.
The next up is FNaF II, because it'd be weird if it wasn't. FNaF II is, personally, one of the milestones in the original Scott-made games. The gameplay is, yes, repetitive and just the same thing, difficult over and over again, but because of how much you have to do it, it feels like it's an actual fun experience. Something that has been very hard for the first game to do for me. Not to mention the characters are very creative and had the most lore relevance so far. After all, it did introduce the 8-bit style, which to this day is one of the most unique ways of telling a story. So definitely going an A tier for me. It's not an S tier worth quality, and like I said, it's the gameplay getting repetitive again, but it's fun because of how much you have to really clench it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But A, it's way better than the first game by a long shot.
FNaF 2, yeah, it does kind of get repetitive, like Castform said. It did bring a lot more to the table in the series. Like, it's not just closed door, look at one camera, because fuck. Now there's the music box, the mask, the light. It just added way more to the series, especially with the lore. I'm gonna have to also give it an A tier. Put it in A tier, around the same level as FNaF 1 for me.
Oh boy. Take everything about negative I've said about the past two games and apply that. I thought I liked FNaF 3, but then I remembered it was only because I enjoyed watching the little bubble things go off the camera when you play the audio. This game is repetitive in its definition. All you do is lure Springtrap away, and oh my gosh, if you have any type of error in the worst possible moment, he's instantly in your office. I had to take down the stream because it accidentally leaked my email, but I actually had a stream going, and I tried Night 4 of that game for the first time, And no joke, it took 10 seconds for Springtrap to get across the entire building just to jump scare me. Not to mention, this was supposed to be the last installment of the franchise, but the jump scares were too scrappy, so that honestly made it continue. So thank you, FNaF III, for sucking so bad you single-handedly continued the franchise. You know what? I'm giving this an F tier. I just genuinely don't like FNaF 3. I've never beaten it, and I don't want to. Like, I've not continued playing the FNaF games just because I have to get through 3.
Alright, so even though FNaF 3 did bring lots of lore to the series, with Purple Guy getting spring locked, the game is kind of boring. Because all you do is you just have to care about Springtrap, and the Phantoms, they don't really do anything. They're just there, but they just make it more annoying. But FNaF 3, okay. Like, I like the lore, the mini games are cool, the characters, amazing. The gameplay is just really boring because there's only one character you really have to worry about. It's just really dumb. Still okay game. I would probably give like a C, or D tier. I'm gonna just give it a C.
FNaF IV was a very interesting time for the franchise. It was the last game to be released in the golden ages of the franchise, and it also threw the most curveballs into the lore. I still blame FNaF IV for how crazy the story is nowadays. Sure, recent things that have been released don't help explain it that much and kind of add more confusion, but this game's definitely where that stuff started coming from. But regardless, this game was very unique for the franchise. It was the first time that you weren't just sitting at a chair looking at cameras all night. You actually got to run around the room and check different parts of it. And of course, the 8-bit minigames have returned once again, and they actually have a more important story. This time, you actually have a fully thought out explanation to what's happening, and not just, hey look, you play as Freddy, go get killed by Purple Man. However, with all this uniqueness, you pretty much figure that this game would be pretty high up on the tier. No, it's going in D tier. Sure, the gameplay was fairly unique with every character having a semi-different mechanic, but when it comes down to it, it's just overwhelmingly difficult, and it's not the type of challenge I'd like. Heck, there are so many bonus modes that you have to beat in order to get 100% on this game. I never think I'll actually get there. That's how many challenges there are. One of them is just playing the whole night, but it's nothing but a black screen. So that's why I'm giving it a D tier. Slightly better than FNaF 3, but definitely worse than FNaF 1.
So, FNaF 4, the gameplay is pretty unique. It was the first time FNaF has ever done no cameras, and it was probably the most gameplay change in the series at the time. The designs of the characters are really good, all the nightmares good, plush shop good. The minigames, they put lots of lore into the series, but that's one of the problems with the game. The lore really messed up the series. The gameplay is good. And then we have lots of horror element, because like Bonnie and Chica, and I think like Nightmare Fredbear, maybe, I don't know, you have to listen for breathing. I don't like that, because I would have to turn my computer or phone or whatever I'm playing it on volume all the way up, and then if I get jump scared, I get traumatized. So yeah, FNaF 4, even though it did traumatize me and it did kind of mess up the lore, it's better than FNaF 3, so I'm gonna have to give it a C tier.